I want to introduce our first speaker. This is going to be Manuela Lopez. Thanks a lot, Manuela, for joining us and for agreeing to share your valuable experience with us, which she has a lot, by the way. To start with, that Manuela is the head of marketing, communication and digital at Kane Hair Cosmetics in Brazil. She has experience not only in cosmetics and consumer goods, but also in biotechnology and agro industry and retails. She has a very impressive education. She did her bachelor in public relations, advertising, and applied communication at PUC-PR. This is located in Curitiba, also in Brazil. She got her specialization in marketing management, and afterwards she received an MBA in University College in Dublin. So Manuela has also solid experience in B2C and B2B markets, extensive experience in marketing planning for Brazil and Latin America, consumer and market analysis, behavior and trends, product launches, promotional actions, events, and digital marketing strategies. All in all, she has 17 years of experience of marketing and 10 years of experience to be a leader. So we definitely have something to learn from her. So thanks, Manuela, a lot. Please, the scene is yours.
Hi, Anna. Thank you so much for this warm introduction. Such a responsibility to be talking here with you guys. And I feel very welcome and very blessed to share my little knowledge, because we learn every day. It's not something that you just stop doing. So thank you very much for this. And it's an honor to be here talking to you guys. So for who's in Brazil, good afternoon. I know a few Brazilian people here. For those in Europe or anywhere else in the globe, good evening. I might be a little nervous to talk with you guys, not really because I don't know you, but because of the language barrier. So I did some notes here for not forget anything and miss out any words or term. I appreciate you all being here, and thank you again for being interested in hearing about introverted perspective of leadership. When I was invited by Global Shapers, you guys gave me such a huge opportunity to really think about over how being an introverted leader has affected my career and my professional relation with my coworkers and team. I confess, before this invitation, I have never thought about it in a deep way. Of course, I know I am an introverted person, that's for sure, but I didn't think about it in how it affected the development of my career. So thank you very much for that. It made a lot of sense to me. And I researched it a little bit and also think about all the experiences and all my life being an introverted person and introverted leader. So the common sense says that introverted people are shy or timid, but I can say there is a huge difference between them. A shy person normally lacks of confidence and is afraid of social judgment. Yet a timid person is more like a person extremely scared of everything around. While being an introverted person, introversion itself actually is how we respond to stimulations, including social and work stimulation. You see, introversion does not mean lack of confidence at all or fear of people. Introversion can perhaps mean just a thoughtful person, a thoughtful individual. So why people will still think that being introverted can affect the development of their career or even avoid them to be a leader or even a good leader? I think leadership has been confused by great communication skills and putting out your ideas at first. In a meeting, for example, in a room full of people. But being a good leader is not a personality thing. It is a competence thing, and it's something you can develop. So what is the definition of leader? Leading is a process to influence and inspire other people to research their goals, or to reach their goals and to develop themselves. But at some point, society shifted that being a good leader is someone more interested in public perception than truly team building. I remember when I just became a leader, like my very first team. It was a small team, but a wonderful team. At that time, I just entered in this new company. I was very young, surrounded by older men. They were my partners and, of course, my bosses. They were maybe 10 to 15 years older than me. They were all engineers. Some were very loud and extrovert. And I was mainly the new girl from marketing and communication. We didn't really have anything in common at all. And I had to lead this team, and I had to be their model. I had to guide them and still gain my value among this group. So I remember thinking, or maybe not really think, it was more just like a survival feeling that I had to show somehow that I knew what I was talking about and show my point of view. Otherwise, I would definitely be eaten by them. And I wouldn't have maybe another chance to gain their respect. So I remember preparing myself for the first annual planning meeting we would have, just like a crazy person. I studied every single aspect I could of everything that would be discussed to be prepared. I was nervous for the meeting, I confess, just like maybe I was in the beginning of our conversation. But I couldn't say that I was insecure to put my ideas out. I was not. Maybe I was just scared because of their experiences, their knowledge, but not by their loudness, but never because of my knowledge or my idea. So I read about a lot this week about introversion, introverted people, because I wanted to be prepared for this talk. I wanted to understand and analyze my previous experiences in my career and in my life. And introverted people are often very creative people, and I consider myself a creative person, because the creation process most of the time requires solitude. We are focused people, we are careful, and most of the time we are balanced emotionally. And I promise we do like people. We do like to interact with people. I love it, I mean it. But we prefer smaller groups than big crowds. And normally we like to listen before talking. We need to understand deeply the subject before putting out our ideas and actions. And in these researches I did this week, I read that this cautiousness can make many companies less vulnerable in crisis. So this is a very good point for us. We tend to be more cautious, more calm, which is very important to maintain the team confidence, especially during crisis. And talking about teams, introverted leaders managing proactive employees are much more likely to let these employees run their ideas freely. Who doesn't want a leader to value your ideas, to give space to collaborate? I personally like a very diverse team. I have one of my team members here, and so she wouldn't let me lie here to you guys. And I have all kinds of people in my team. I encourage them to collaborate, to construct together new projects, because introverted leaders like to listen and like to discuss. We hear a lot of myths about introverted leadership. First, that introverts shy away from leadership roles. That's not true. That we don't have people skills to lead. That is also not true. that we are maybe bad communicators. I don't know where they came from, and that we don't like to collaborate. Guys, I can prove you from my experience that this is all BS. In a study published by famous magazines, senior executives said that lack of empathy was the main cause of failure among the leadership today. The results of this research matches with one research done by Daniel Goleman. He found out that the best bosses have something called high social intelligence. This form of intelligence correlates more with the attention and focus on relationships. So guys, if you are listening to what I'm saying, and if you are an introverted person, you see the beauty on that? I'm very proud of being how I am, and I couldn't be someone else. So those high social intelligences are able to connect with others and greatly influence performance on the people they lead, we lead. All the skills that an introverted person has. So I give you, the younger ones, 3 tips. Please, first of all, embrace your introversion. Don't try to be someone else. Don't try to be what you are not. 2, build up your confidence. It often comes from self-awareness and acceptance. And 3, keep in mind there is no right and wrong. I think someone just said that there is no right and wrong in becoming a leader. Just be yourself. And remember, introverts are wonderful observers. We pick up social nuances, hidden emotions, and team dynamics better than anyone else. When we speak, people listen to us. Why? Because we tend to think carefully before thinking, and we use the words carefully. People take us seriously. Don't ever feel pressure to engage in chit-chats or small talks. Speak only when you are ready. And I can say our quietness is our power, and it's very contagious. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Manuela. That was extremely interesting. That's a very good idea that the introverted doesn't actually mean shy. That's what I would keep for myself, because usually people always think that introverts is shy people, but it doesn't have to be that, and it's not connected with your actually personality. Great, thanks a lot.
Exactly. I am not a shy person. I like to talk a lot. Actually, my fiance is here in the group. She has her phone muted because she's driving, but I talk a lot. Although I prefer small groups, I prefer to receive the idea first, think over, and then put my idea on the table. That's just how we interact, and there's nothing wrong with that. And this is the beauty. We like to listen, we like to talk, we like to interact, but in a differently way.
Exactly. If anyone has a question, you can, to Manuela, you can just speak up or put the question in the chat. So we have already one question in the chat. So the question is, I love the point about introverted and creativity, talking on crisis as well. How did you face the COVID crisis when suddenly everyone needed to work from home, being an introverted leader?
That's a good question. Well, it actually made life easier to us because we normally talk to smaller groups. So we had meetings, online meetings, and we only had the people that were involved on those projects. So once again, we like to talk, we like to put our ideas out, but maybe we are not the first ones to doing that in a meeting. So the dynamic is actually the same in the office. For example, I still like to listen before putting my idea out, but maybe we were more focused with the people, only the people that were in that particularly project online, and to me made my life easier.
As you have also mentioned that for introverted, it's easier when you don't have a lot of chit talks. You don't have really so small talks, but you have to go to the point directly. Maybe that also makes life easier with the crisis when you don't have to have the small talks right now, but you cut up to just having meetings and conversations during crisis only on the topics that are needed. And the amount of unnecessary conversations may be cut out now.
You know, Anna, you just said something very interesting that I was, I don't remember if it was today or yesterday. I read a lot of things about it and heard and saw a lot of videos. But I saw one video this week that from HR person, and she said that chit-chatting, small talk, it's needed. Like when you are in an organization, you need people on your side to work. You need to build those relationships. And that's for an introverted person might be a little harder to do, but it's necessary. So when I say you don't need to engage, I mean, you don't need to force yourself to engage, but it's very important to keep in mind that no one works alone. You need to work your relation in the way that makes you comfortable. If it's through smaller groups, if it's through one by one, or if you are okay talking with larger audience, that's just your way. But we can't forget that we need those relations, and this is important for any characteristics or anyone.
Right, that's very good point, actually. We have one hand raised. So Georg Oberdorfer, please.
Yes, so thank you. First off, thank you, Manuela, for your inspiring talk also. I would just like to follow up with some comments, because I actually have a mentor at work, so he is my leader, so to say, and I never really thought about these aspects which you brought up today before, but he is the more silent kind of guy, but he's also the creative guy, the mastermind, so to say. And the interesting thing is, when we go into higher level meetings and then top management comes up, you will have sometimes people that just raise their voice immediately, and I sometimes think that is to assert their standing as the top management, but that doesn't automatically lead to better outcomes or better ideas. So I think we could actually benefit quite a lot from having this more thoughtful approach of not always being the first to talk or being the loudest to talk, because then my mentor, who is also, let's say, in the middle floor of an organization, and we tend to get these tasks which are just brought up because, okay, I have to talk first, I have to bring in an idea, and it's not really a ripe idea. I just had to talk first, and here you go. So I think we all, and especially also in our organization, we could benefit from such a more thoughtful perspective. So thank you for opening up this topic to me.
Thank you. And you have a great point. I also read about it this week, that nowadays organizations, schools, universities, they are not prepared in a way for introverted people to develop themselves. Because since kids in schools, we are forced to develop group work, in the companies, like in your work, you always, sometimes or most of the times, if you put your idea first, sometimes, as you said, sometimes it's not the best idea, but you don't have time enough for people that are introverted to, I would say, digest or even think a little bit about this and come up with a better idea. So we are in a fast way nowadays in work, organizations, schools, universities. And so this is something we have to bring to our teams, to bring to our bosses, to bring to our employees, that people are different, people need different timing for understanding. It doesn't mean that an introverted person is a slow person. I'm actually very fast. I like doing a lot of things at the same time. But sometimes, depending on the project or the work you're doing, you need a little more time to think over and to be more assertive.
Yes, exactly. I very resonate this with me, that I also sometimes feel in myself that it's sometimes ideas win, just ideas which are brought so quickly, and maybe with a little bit more time we could gather more ideas from people who just needs this time to process. I think we have one question in the chat, but we will discuss it later in the networking session after our second speaker, because we have to move for now. Thanks a lot, Manuela. I would like all you to ask to share for the networking part your LinkedIn's links in the chat. So just put them in, connect one with another and enlarge your networks. So feel free to put them in the chat, and also to follow our links on Women Leading Forward on social media. They are already in the chat. And now we have to move on to our second speaker. I'm happy to present you Nupur Mehta. Nupur has, by the way, a very impressive LinkedIn, so don't forget to connect with her as well. Thanks, Nupur, for joining us today. We are very happy to have you here. Nupur is outgoing curator, so Global Shapers curator of the Palo Alto Hub. She's a YC alum. She's a co-founder of Ota Info. And Ota Info is the company that provides the infrastructure for the over-the-air updates for low bandwidth and low resource IoT devices, so Internet of Things devices. She's also the CEO of Replenish, and this company helps to speed up the paperwork for the paramedics, cutting out the 40 minutes paperwork up to 4 minutes. She is also a founder of companies like Veracity and co-founder of Days Incorporation. In her spare time, when she doesn't work, she likes to play tennis, dance, and network. So take your chance also to get her to know personally and exchange contacts. And with that, please, Nupur, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Anna. Given that I didn't send a blurb, you did a great job. You covered all aspects. That was amazing. So super excited to be here, guys. Let me share my screen. And let me know once you guys can see my screen.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. Also, feel free to interrupt me at any point. I would love for this session to be interactive rather than me just talking. So if you guys have any questions or a comment, feel free to raise your hand and maybe Anna can moderate that. But like, great talk, Manuela. I learned so much. I feel like introverted versus extroverted, there's such a fine line between different characteristics. But the way I'm going to give this talk is slightly different. I'm going to talk about my journey from being a completely shy person in high school. And I started my first company at the age of 13 to now, how I've grown and whatever the experience that really shaped my style of leadership. So without any further ado, here we go. Connect with me on LinkedIn. So we started OTA Info in January of 2020, which was a very unfortunate time to start a company, especially when you were selling to hardware companies. But we have survived the pandemic and here we are. I think Anna mentioned my Global Shapers affiliation as well. I have been the vice curator, the curator, and now I'm the outgoing curator for this year. So as I mentioned, I started my first company in high school at the age of 13. And this company was stemmed from a personal problem that I had faced. I lived in India until 7th standard or 7th grade. And when I moved to US, I realized that, in India, the whole focus was on memorization. And US, they really emphasized critical thinking. So that's how my first company, Veracity, started. It was a tool to teach people how to think critically, like students, basically. And it didn't go anywhere. We did build a product, but I was super shy to even talk to people. And exams and schools got in the way for me to take it anywhere further. But that's the first ever company I had started. Once high school was done, I ended up going to De Anza. I did a summer program at Harvard. I went to USC and decided to drop out because I really missed Silicon Valley, which is home for me. And when I took a leave of absence, like for 6 months, I didn't know what to do. We have heard about all those stories that people dropping out and starting amazing companies, but I didn't know where to start or what to do. So the only way I knew was, let's start meeting people. So I met a lot of people. I attended so many different conferences. I don't know if you recognize these, but the first two pictures are the cast of a really popular show called Silicon Valley. And then I met anyone and everyone that would talk to me. The third picture is this solar airplane that was going around the world to showcase their amazing airplane that is completely solar run. I kept meeting people. If you guys watch Shark Tank, you guys probably know Damon John. This is the co-founder of Yahoo. This is the head of Google Car. This is Steve Blank, who is amazing in the space of startup. I met Satya Nadella, who is the founder of Microsoft. I met the CEO, or not founder, CEO of Microsoft, sorry. I met, founder of Salesforce. I met his mom, right? So Jack Dorsey, Twitter, Box CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, now I have to say Metaverse. Fun fact, this picture right here was taken with the first prototype of Snapchat spectacles. So a lot of cool stories, met a lot of cool people. But these were all vanity metrics. What that means is I was meeting all these people, but there was no ask. There was nothing I was gaining from them that really advanced my career or what I wanted to do. Like, it was cool to meet them, but that was a very important lesson to learn, because these 4 people were the inflection points for my career. And during the first year of my startup, the first start, Replenish, this is the co-founder or CEO of Cloudera. He mentioned us in their keynote during a really big conference. And that really set the trajectory for how I interacted with the people at the conference itself. Like, that was a huge thing to be mentioned. I just approached him backstage, snuck in to pitch my Replenish startup. This is Guy Kawasaki. He is an evangelist for the software I use to build this presentation called Canva. And we had this amazing 20-minute conversation that, even to this day, if I go to him, he will remember me and mentor me in whatever way I needed. So these were very meaningful conversations that I had built, and they were not just vanity metrics. This one is the co-founder and CEO of Evernote, which was a note-taking app. He really connected with me with so many amazing people that were relevant to my startup. And now he's working in AI, amazing mentor to have. And this is Michael Seibel. He is the CEO of an incubator called Y Combinator. He ended up investing in our company as well. So, meeting people just for meeting people versus being selective about who you spend the time with, and really dig deeper into how can I benefit from this interaction, or what value can I provide to the other person? Remember, it's a two-way street. That was the first lesson. Put yourself out there, but put yourself out there in a very meaningful way where both parties are benefiting. So how do you do that, right? Like, how do you have a targeted exposure with a specific ask? So here are 3 examples from my, journey. This is how we got into Y Combinator. I sent a video of our pitch over Snapchat to Justin Khan, and he ended up responding, ended up interviewing us, and became our partner during the YC batch. And anytime, this was a second person, the benefit of living in Silicon Valley is a lot of people are just around you. I ran into the CEO of Confluent, or super close to my house, and I was like, oh my God, that's you. And we ended up connecting over LinkedIn afterwards. Another thing that I really helped me was the amount of pre-work that goes when you are attending a conference, right? I would send these cold messages to all the speakers or anybody that would have been relevant to my startup and set up meetings during the event. So targeted exposure with a specific ask is extremely important, and putting yourself outside of the comfort zone and not being shy about asking for things, because people love mentoring other people. Any questions so far?
I have one, sorry, but it's regarding
ahead.
gender. I found so curious that all the mentors are male, and I know it was some time ago. So I was curious to know, like, if something changed and we can maybe find more easily female mentors in the tech industry.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when I started off, when I was younger, I remember being surrounded by only males. There were I was the youngest one, under 21, and I was the only female in the whole group. And I think I see the trajectory changing for sure now. Compared to the mentor slide versus this slide, this person is a female. So great question.
That's a very good question, because I was prepared to ask the same thing, just for understanding. Would you, for example, now, if someone would ask you to mentor someone, would you feel different, or if that would be a female or a male? And for you as well, back then, when you were reaching to people, would you feel different about reaching out to females or males comparatively to right now, to people that you would reach right now? Would that matter for you?
Yeah, great question. I feel like when I was initially reaching out, there were very few female, people that I knew of. And I think I really had to make a conscious effort to kind of bridge that gap. The first interaction I had with female mentors was during the YC days, which is funny because we had done Founder Institute, another incubator before that as well. But during that YC time, I really realized that you don't realize that there are no females until you start interacting with females, and you're like, wait, how have I not met more female mentors and leaders before? So since then, I've been making a very conscious effort to kind of create that network around me that is more diverse. For example, even through Global Shapers, we did a lot of projects around high schoolers, and and I even mentor a lot of people who are trying to apply to YC or starting their own companies. And I'm so happy to say that it's a good mix now. Maybe it's just the people I've surrounded myself with, and there's a lot more work to do, but it is a work in progress. Does that answer your question, Anna?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions before I move on? Awesome. So one of the biggest questions I get asked is okay, I have gone outside of my comfort zone. I've reached out to this person. They have agreed to the meeting, but now what? You will need something to talk about, right? And the most important thing, especially if you're thinking from a startup, but it only also applies to corporate, is to have a hypothesis, right? Each meeting you go in, you think of it as a hypothesis that I am trying to work on this problem, and is it a hair-burning problem for other people or not? And with Rick Planish, that hypothesis was that each ambulance run from end to end was like 2 hours long, but 40 minutes is being spent on paperwork. We wanted to reduce those 40 minutes to 4 minutes, right? So I would go to these meetings. Like one good thing about Replenish when we were working on it was ambulances are everywhere in US. It doesn't matter if you are in like a small town or a big town. Every every city required an ambulance. So I would just go up to these, like fire departments or paramedics or EMTs and just ask open-ended questions. Again, putting myself out there, right? And these open-ended questions would be like, can you walk me through a day in your life? If you had a magic wand and you could change one thing that will, about the operations, what would you change? And the key here was active listening. I would take copious notes and just listen to these people, because in my mind, the way I kind of described extroverted leadership was not to like build my own product from what I think would be right. It was more about how do I listen to like all these people, understand their daily workflows, where the discrepancies are, and what truly will like move the needle in their daily lives, and build that small product and like launch it and then iterate on it. So customer development was the central focus of everything. The next one is a fun picture of me. I was on a trip with my friends, and this is December 31st, New Year's. We are on Times Square, the ball is dropping, and here I am talking to all the paramedics and EMTs that are making sure that the area is safe. So always keep talking to your customers. Any questions so far, guys?
I think none for now.
Okay, keep going. So what is extroverted leadership? This is just a summary slide, I guess. So it is more like customer-led product development, putting yourself out there, taking people on the journey, right? Like you are not the expert in whatever you do. You have to surround yourself with people who know best, who are going to give you like the money or the resources to make your startup or the project that you're working on happen. And startup is a very lonely journey. So you do need to have some level of being okay with being with yourself to embark on this journey. So again, it's a very broad spectrum of what things. So what can you do now? So if you are like an introverted or an extroverted leader, or you could be an ambivert, a little bit of both, right? Put yourself out there. That best thing that you guys have going for you is like, all of us are young. There are very less responsibilities. So go expose yourself to different experiences. You never know when you might come across a problem and you might be like, I can solve this, and work towards that, and keep talking to people, whether in smaller groups or bigger groups. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. That was very, very inspiring. I'm actually have my question. How did you meet all of these people? Did you go out for conferences, or probably that's a plus of living in Silicon Valley? But even there, like, do you go on the meetings, or how can one expose himself to meeting useful people for Korea?
Yeah, no, great question. I think I have a whole session on my Instagram where I did like a highlight series about what networking means and different levels of networking. So also Instagram is like, I just got it, do not judge. But I think when I started off, I was going to any event that anybody would invite me to, right? And that was not the right approach. I think as I kind of went to more events and I started losing my voice, and I'm like, what am I doing with my life, right? Like just going to conferences and talking to people, I became more conscious about what events did I want to go to? What will I get out of it? How is this relevant to what I am doing? And once I would pick like a few conferences a year, I would put in so much work to kind of put myself in the right position, right? So 3 things I would like to highlight. One was the LinkedIn messages that I showed previously. I would message all the speakers beforehand. And you'll be surprised. Like I literally have had about like 90 to 95% response rate. If you customize a message that you're sending to people, people are willing to, you know, like mentor you and get back to you. So that was one. Second was I would try to figure out how, like this sounds very stalkerish, but it worked. Like, you know, where are the speakers entering from? When are they exiting? Is there like a speaker lounge where people are just hanging out? How can I make my way there? Sometimes like in bigger conferences, I would also volunteer. And once I volunteered and started creating my network initially, people started inviting me to these conferences. For example, like Damon John, and like I even met the co-founders of Google. I didn't add their pictures. I should add that. But those people I met because there was this initiative that was started by like Barack Obama, former president of US, and he wanted to get all the people from the government, like the corporate world and the private world, to come together in one conference and discuss. And this was like an invite-only conference. It still happens. It's called Global Entrepreneurship Summit. It moves around the world every year, but it's invite-only. So kind of building that network, starting somewhere, really helped put me with, you know, these kinds of people. Yeah, and also a lot of my work, like with my current startup, we work very closely with the government because my co-founder is writing a bunch of standards for over-the-air updates. So that also helps. Yeah.
Sounds very cool. Thank you. We have one. So now we will enter the comment discussion. So if anyone has the question to any of the speakers, please speak up or put the questions in chat. We still have one question from after Manuela. I think it applies for both of the speakers. So what do you do when someone questions your leadership skills? How to react on that and what to do?
Well, Napir, I admire you very much for accomplishing all of it. And there is no right or wrong way. So congratulations for all you've done. And very nice to hear your story. Well, once again, to be a leader is to influence and inspire people. So if you are doing that on your own way, if you are showing this result, that's your answer. So that's what I have always done in my life, in my way, being an introvert, hearing, guiding, finding solutions together, which does not mean that I don't take risks or I don't assume responsibilities, but that's just my way, and I show through my results. And I think that's the way. Is your team happy? Is your team working with you? Is delivering the goals? You are delivering the goal. So there is no other way to do it.
Yes, right. Nupur, would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's actually interesting that you asked that question because when I started my second startup, Replenish, it was crazy because I was part of this incubator, and after we used to have these sessions, like 3-hour sessions, and then the only way to interact with the speakers was to go to this bar afterwards. And I was under 21, and the drinking age here to even enter the bar was 21. So I wasn't even allowed in, right? So that was like kind of the first time where I faced this challenge where like, I'm like, is my leadership being questioned? Like, you know, people were nice enough to come outside and talk to me. I would just hang out outside the bar. But I think more than that, even when I would go to customers, right? Like they would be like, who is this young kid who is just telling us what to do? So I really had to build that confidence, and that confidence came because I knew the industry inside out, and I knew that the product I was providing was a really big problem for the customers. So yeah, let your work do the talk.
Right. I think that's not only the problem to be the young and inexperienced than someone to start questioning the skills, but also to be a female and to be around the well-experienced and long-term people out there, and to try to say for yourself is to stand up and explain that you're also worth your ideas as well. Very interesting. Great. So we would like also, if you have Manuela or Nupur, maybe some sources that you could recommend to our participants that inspire you on your life. Maybe some movies or books that you have to share them also with us.
Well, I actually have a few indications here about introverted people. I didn't read this book, but I researched it and I saw the TED Talk, and so I was very interested because this was never something I really thought about. It was nothing. It was something that I thought could get on a way in for my development. But once I started reading about it or researching about it, a lot of people is afraid, especially the younger ones, that your way or introverted way can be something to worry in your career development. So I can, I found out this person, her name is Susan Kane. She is a lawyer. She was a lawyer from Wall Street, and she is very introverted, a very introverted person. But she had like an outspoken job, and she started to researching and build her career and her studies in regards of introverted person. So there is a TED Talk about the power of introverts by Susan Kane, and she has also developed a network to help introverted people. So it's a website called Quiet, and she has also a book about it. So if you think this can be something you should develop or you should address in your life, I recommend Susan Kane, her TED, her website, and her book.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Before I ask Nupur for resources, we have one question, hands from Lizzie. Could you please ask the question?
Yeah, Nupur, I know you personally, and I know you are a very creative mind. And just making a bridge with what Manuela said, that we need this quiet, that I totally agree, because I'm an introvert myself. How do you create? It's like in a silent environment, or is it very with a lot of noise?
That's a great question, because I'm a very people person. I think for me to get motivated or anything, I love to surround myself with people that propel you forward. So I do get motivated by people, but then I do go and execute alone. And I have a lot of like check-ins, like even with my teams, right? It's not like I've assigned it and then they're doing it. It's more about, let's have like 5-minute check-ins. How's everything going? Do we need to, like, what's the blocker? Those kind of things. It's a lot of interactions with people on a daily basis. Does that answer your question?
All right. So Nupur, maybe you have also some inspiration for us.
Of course. So I would recommend 3 things. For me, I think any leadership position you take, perseverance is a huge thing. And I think a fun way to learn about perseverance is an amazing movie called The Pursuit of Happiness. And if you want a little bit more technical about what it means to, start a startup, an amazing book called 0 to 1. I'll be sending links shortly by Peter Thiel. And if you just want inspiration in general about life, Justin Khan has an amazing podcast called The Quest. So check it out.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. To also reflect, I just have had the thought right now. Manuela shared the book about the community about helping introverts. Do you agree that actually introverts needs to be helped, or do we have to just take it as it is that we are introverts, and or does this help do not work in direction let's make extroverts from introverts, but more about how introverts to be good and suitable for life in the society?
Very good question, Anna. I don't think we need to be helped. I think it's a way maybe to hear from other introverts their way on life. How do they as we are doing now, how did I do in my career? How do I do with my team, with my boss? And so maybe just an inspirational thing. And I think we, not only introverts, but everyone likes to hear a good story. Everyone likes to see how people manage their lives, their jobs. So maybe it's just something that for younger ones, it's interested to see that even if you are not the first one to speak, or even if you're not like Napur going out for all the conferences, which I admire, you can also find your way.
Yes, that's right. Thank you. Yeah, I have found recently the study that showed that usually on the meeting, 75% of time speaking are men, and on 25% of time speaking are women. And yeah, that usually men also eager to interrupt more easily rather than women on the meetings. That's the question for speakers and for our participants. So have you observed this in your surroundings, or do you try to encourage more equal contributions during the meetings? What's your takes on that? If our participants are too shy, maybe our speakers can comment on that.
I mean, just from personal experience, and maybe there is a lot of bias going on because I am in a marketing department, and I guess our staff is, let me think, 50, we are a team of 20, 15 women and 5 men. So definitely in our department, there is quite the opposite going on. The women are very proactive, and this is also shown by the fact that we are managed by a woman who is also reporting to another woman manager. So yeah, in my personal experience, it has been quite weighted out, I think, in the discussions. I think there is, but this of course is different from organization to organization and different from structure to structure. I think we have a very, in this regard, modern and proactive structure going on in our company.
That's also very interesting that our perspective changes depending on whether we have to report to women or to other women, and that then also other changes their behavior. Is that something that you all also observe quite often?
Yes,
I agree. I agree with you. Please go on, Lizzie.
Yeah, well, actually, I worked for an automobile company before leaving Brazil, and well, automobile is predominantly male, and all my bosses were male. Was my first full-time job. I had a lot of experience with internships before, but never in the corporative world, so it was a lot of stress. And it's also that I had a question from the last meeting. Also, when you had someone that we promote and it was a woman as a leader on this industry specifically, there was a lot of question. she was promoted because she's good, or because there is this cult we need to fill up like women leaders. So I did see women being together and listening up, but of course, most of the times men were there, and there were so many meetings. I was the only woman, and I was the one that was on the beginning of the careers. Others were directors or even more, C-level. So it was very hard sometimes to step in, because you even don't have the environment to speak. You were more there. If someone has a question about this number, they are going to ask you. So yeah, I hope this is changing right now, but I did see it a lot.
Is it difficult for you to start talking? Is it different for you in the room, for example, in the meeting when everyone around is men and you are the only woman, or it's the other way around?
For me specifically, it was different, very hard, because I forgot to comment that in the beginning. I'm a bioengineer, and my first full-time job was in the automobile industry. I had no background at all on that, so I didn't have the knowledge to, hey guys, I know what I'm talking, and just putting myself there on the table. I'm pretty sure if I'm in the environment I know, bioengineer, healthcare, I'm not afraid, even though being an introvert. But it's like not about talking, right? I can hear a bit, understand what is the situation, then okay, I'm ready to bring up my opinion. But it's this fear to not have the confidence about the industry and everything.
Lizzie, I think you just said what I wanted to say, my whole speech. Leadership is not about your characteristic, it's about your confidence. And build up confidence is the mainly thing to become a leader. Whether you go through one way or another, you have to be confident about your thoughts, about your ideas, about how you or what you're going to reach. How, the way is just a consequence. But if you know what you want, that's halfway there.
Yeah, exactly. Another point which I've had is that we have this image of the woman to be, okay, of the man to be likable when he is successful, when everything's go well in the career. Then we kind of have, not we, but the study shows that we have the image to this person to be likable, in comparison with the woman who has a very successful career and is extremely good. Then we don't have this likability. Then we can think of her like in the negative way, even because she is successful. It doesn't mean that you have to have this, but have you observed that from others, if that's actually like that in your areas?
Well, Brazil is a very sexist country. And yes, you can see a lot of that around here. I have a woman boss right now. I work in the beauty industry. Most of the team are women, and also LGBT people, which I think it's a different minded company from the one I developed my leadership, as I mentioned before. But still, even in the beauty industry, you still have this stigma.
I think with all the startups that I have done thus far, I've been lucky enough, like my previous company was, both of us were female co-founders. In this company, we have a wide range of employees, ranging from me to like 50 something years old. But I think there's a mutual respect amongst all of us. And that is what is more important. And I'm glad that I have surrounded myself with these kind of people and team members. But again, we're small and I get to pick who comes to the, yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's also about the surroundings and bringing people that are close, that have the same opinions, and that supports a lot. Great. So with that, I will share a few links in the chat also with the a few resources that I find very inspiring. One is just the collection of the TED Talks, women who also leaders. So in this case, if someone can find something more suitable for themselves, I didn't choose one specifically. And the one video of one also blogger who is also busying herself with the understanding what woman is and trying to get the respect and bring awareness to these questions and problems. Yes, and with that, we would like you all not to forget to subscribe for the links in the chat, also to connect via LinkedIn with one another. And we would like to thank you all, Nupur and Manuela. Thanks for joining us and inspiring us a lot today. I have learned a lot, and I think our participants as well. That was very, I find comfortable and nice talk and discussion with you. And I hope that we will all stay in touch and we'll have more coming up in the future. Thanks a lot for joining us. And I think with that, we can close up today's session. Thanks a lot.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much
so
for
much.
bringing these amazing people together. An amazing session as well.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day or night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Bye.